If you grew up in the late 2000s, you definitely saw it everywhere. Bright vector flowers, glossy gradients, human silhouettes with headphones, and abstract splats that seemed to jump right off the screen. This was Frutiger Metro, a design style all about fun, energy, and youth culture. Today, we're breaking it down, what it is, where it showed up, its subgenres, and how it defined an entire era of design. Frutiger Metro, sometimes referred to as abstract vector art, vector maximalism, or just Metro, was a mid-2000s design aesthetic built on bold, vector graphics. Frutiger in its name refers to the Frutiger typeface, which was prominent in 2000s graphic design. Metro refers to Microsoft's user interface design language from 2010 to 2012. The Frutiger Metro aesthetic was ultimately an aesthetic of fun, energy, and liveliness. Frutiger Metro was able to convey this sense of fun through its most common elements: flat silhouettes, usually of people, bright neon light gradients, splatters, swirls, and musical symbols. Frutiger Metro art is typically maximalist, with an abundance of overlapping motifs. The Frutiger Metro aesthetic had many use cases, from album cover art to user interfaces. Alright, now that you understand the Frutiger Metro aesthetic, let's take a look at some of the most prominent examples. This Apple iPod ad campaign from 2004 to 2008 is by far the most iconic example of Frutiger Metro. In fact, I think that silhouette human outlines over top of bright colors became an element of the Frutiger Metro aesthetic because of this Apple iPod campaign. And for that reason, the iPod ad campaign popularized the Frutiger Metro aesthetic as a whole. There were tons of other Frutiger Metro ad campaigns, such as this Sprite promotional ad from 2007, or this Hasbro iDog commercial from 2009. I highly recommend checking out these two Frutiger Metro aesthetic commercial compilations for more. Link in the description. In the realm of music, Frutiger Metro was the perfect aesthetic for album covers. Take a look at this cover for Creamsfield Paul Oakenfold in 2004, or Common's Finding Forever from 2007. While this is a more modern example, certain parts of the music video for Nice to Meet You by Pink Panthers are really Frutiger Metro, despite it actually being released in 2023. When it comes to songs, there isn't really a standard for what songs can be considered sounding Frutiger Metro. It seems that any upbeat songs from the 2000s can be considered Frutiger Metro, such as Jerk It Out by Caesars and Get It Together by the Go Team. Various video games in the 2000s also featured the Frutiger Metro aesthetic. Just Dance in 2009 is a prime example of Frutiger Metro, as can be observed by its emphasis on silhouette outlines of people and colorful graphics. It's quite similar to the Apple iPod ad campaign from 2004 to 2008 actually. I wouldn't be surprised if that's exactly where its inspiration came from. My favorite example of Frutiger Metro in video games has to be Little Big Planet. The game's colorful and maximalist graphics scream Frutiger Metro. Guitar Hero is yet another prime example of Frutiger Metro in gaming. Take a look at its maximalist graphics, overlapping elements, and emphasis on music. Before we move on to the next prominent examples, please consider liking and/or commenting, as it helps the algorithm push this video to more people, and maybe, just maybe, consider subscribing for more 2000s tech videos like this one. Alright, let's return to the video. Despite mostly appearing in media, the Frutiger Metro aesthetic was also prominent in user interfaces of the late 2000s and early 2010s. Starting off with an instantly recognizable one, the Xbox 360 was updated in 2008 to have the NXE dashboard, which stands for New Xbox Experience. The NXE dashboard was a carousel-style user interface that consisted of flat yet glossy tiles. The overall glossiness of the NXE dashboard was a nod to the growing popularity of the Frutiger Aero aesthetic, while the flat tiles were a nod to the popularity of vectorized art. This blend of flat design and glossiness is a great example of Frutiger Metro. Also, notice the vectorized geometrical shapes on the tiles. 2 years later, the NXE dashboard was upstaged by the Kinect dashboard, a user interface with more Metro than Frutiger. This era in the early 2010s is where flat user interfaces like the Kinect dashboard really started to become popular. However, thanks to the Frutiger Metro aesthetic, these new flat user interfaces still had some soul in them, unlike some soulless corporate slop we see today. And then of course, Windows 8 in 2012 is often considered to be a Frutiger Metro user interface because of its use of vectorized icons and shapes. In the background, you can see the outlines of geometric shapes. This Windows 8.1 lock screen wallpaper is an iconic Frutiger Metro art piece due to its blend of 3D and 2D elements. And by the way, it was designed by Marius Bohr. Marius Bohr is an artist whose Frutiger Metro art is still available on Adobe Behance today. I highly recommend checking out his portfolio for authentic Frutiger Metro art from the 2000s, because it just looks fantastic. Now that we've taken a look at the most iconic examples of Frutiger Metro, I'm going to tell you something incredible. There are different types of Frutiger Metro. These different types are known as subgenres and/or sub-aesthetics. Vector bloom is one of the most common subgenres of Frutiger Metro. In fact, you've probably already seen it in this video. Vector bloom consists of vectorized blooming plants, flowers, and flourishes in a flat yet maximalist pattern. Funky Metro is the type of Frutiger Metro that specifically focuses on silhouette people dancing, usually in a flurry of color splashes and musical symbols. There's even a darker side of Frutiger Metro, known as Grungy Metro. Grungy Metro consists of splats, overlapping vector patterns, and the heavy use of black. Dorfic Metro is the obscure cross between Frutiger Metro and Dorfic. I highly recommend checking out my video on the Dorfic aesthetic to learn more. And yes, I coined the term Dorfic Metro. No need to clap. Frutiger Metro was an extremely popular aesthetic that defined 2000s culture, be it in media, user interfaces, or art. However, its downfall would ultimately come in the mid-2010s. Frutiger Metro lost popularity because, well, the look grew old. Frutiger Metro was often intended to appeal to a young audience, and when that young audience grew up, they considered Frutiger Metro art to be a relic of their childhood. Frutiger Metro was left in the past, but then, in 2022, 2000s tech aesthetics began to trend on social media, Frutiger Metro included. The largest community of Frutiger Metro enjoyers can be found on Reddit at r/Frutiger Metro. r/Frutiger Metro has 23,000 members. While not as large as r/Frutiger Aero with 128,000, it is still more than active enough to be its own standalone community. Alright, that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Linked in the description is our community 2000s Tech Discord server, as well as my Pinterest account where you can find a ton of images used in this video. Let me know what you think of Frutiger Metro in the comments below, and feel free to suggest the next video. If you enjoyed this video, learned something new, or just feel nostalgic, please leave a like. Until next time, stay nostalgic.